What is up, members of my collector corps? It is I, Super MarioZilla, or you can call me Vinny, and today we will be taking a look at the S.H.MonsterArts SpaceGodzilla Fukuoka Decisive Battle version. This figure was revealed for the 30th anniversary of Godzilla vs. SpaceGodzilla, the third time SpaceGodzilla joins the MonsterArts line, first release being the original release, and the second release being a special color 2-pack with Little Godzilla. And here is a third version made to represent what he supposedly looks like when charging up and shooting his beam, and comes with battle damaged accessories, so it's awesome that we can recreate the final battle with those. Although some fans were happy to have another chance at getting SpaceGodzilla, some fans were not pleased with the fact that they are reissuing a 12-year-old mold with no articulation updates at all. And collectors were also not pleased at that price point. The figure clocks in at an MSRP of $150, which for a singular MonsterArts is absolutely ridiculous and not what we should be paying for at all. And the figure would also be a web exclusive, which means one and done, no chance of a reissue. So with all that being said, is this figure going to be worth grabbing at all? Let's not waste any more time and see if this figure is worthy of a spot on your Heisei Godzilla shelf. Man, I have to say, this figure looks great. Yeah, I mean that. This looks pretty good. Some issues with the paint department, so it's not perfect, but overall is a pretty good looking figure regardless. SpaceGodzilla looks awesome. His sculpt is retained from the first two figures, so that's good. He's not accurate to the suit, he has a more stylized appearance, but that's okay. Folks were fine with it before, I think we can be fine with it again. SpaceGodzilla has awesome coloring with the paint. The paint job is gorgeous on the body and the crystals. The crystals have a gradient effect from red to this pearlescent white, and it looks rad. Really makes it look like the crystals are being ripped out of the skin. The front of the body is this gorgeous glossy finish, and it has a nice contrast from the scales, which is a matte finish. The glossy dark purple really looks good. The main body color is a dark blue and it looks great. The teeth are painted cleanly, surprisingly, so no issues with that. The eyes on mine are fine, but there are reports of derp eyes going around, so yeah, be aware of that if you're planning to pick this figure up. The claws feature some shading on the base of them, which looks nice. The tusks are also painted neatly, but it's definitely looking a little bit clumpy. It looks like the coat of paint there is too thick. Same with the dorsal plates on the back of his head and neck, too clumpy. And the dorsal plates on the tail have a similar problem. Not sloppy, but it doesn't look pretty when the paint was applied this thick. The rest of the plates look awesome. I love the translucent reddish pink, I love that, but it's not accurate to how SpaceGodzilla shot his beam. It's supposed to line up in rows from top to bottom, so the way it was done is not accurate to how it looked. Not a big deal, but something to be made aware of if accuracy was any concern to you. Most of the paint job is great. I really do love it. In ways, I know I'll piss a lot of people off for saying this, but this might even look better than the original SpaceGodzilla, at least with how the body was painted. The dorsal plates on the head and the tail, forget about that. So overall, SpaceGodzilla looks great. Some issues, but I genuinely do think they did a great job here, with the exception of some QC issues with the paint and the eyes.
SpaceGodzilla's articulation is pretty much the exact same as his 2012 and special color version counterpart, so let's just go over it. Head is on a ball joint right here, and is on another ball joint here at the neck area, but it's a little bit, yeah, hard to work with. The original SpaceGodzilla and the special color version had a problem with the jaw constantly popping out because of the way the ball joint was connected into the head. But it looks like they changed it for this release, I'm not entirely sure. Either way, he can look this far up, and can look without popping off. This far down. Jaw is on a ball joint, it can open up this wide, it can close. And of course, he can look side to side with no problem. arms are on ball joints. These little flaps right here can close to not have any gaps. Genius engineering ever since the original release. So I'm happy to keep that. So yeah, his arms can go out this wide. It cannot go 90 degrees, but can go pretty far up and backward. Decent amount back. And of course the bicep swivel is in there as well. Elbows are on ball joints. Can go just a little bit more than 90 degrees. I think that's just about 90 degrees. So yeah, it can do that. It can also act as a swivel. Hands are on ball joints. The waist right here is on a ball joint, so it can go all the way back, obviously to close any dorsal plate gaps, and can go this much forward. Yeah, not a lot of movement. That's a problem when it's, almost a 10-year-old toy, so. But it can rotate ever so slightly. Oh, popped off. Can go side to side. Legs are on ball joints. Can kick just about, I think he can go more. I'm not going to force that. So he can kick about this far forward. He could kick not very far back at all, and cannot really do the splits. Again, it's an older figure, so he's not going to be as posable as, say, Bio Goji. Knees are on ball joints. And ankles are on ball joints. And the tail is on many series of ball joints. It's not as flexible as other figure stuff. Definitely not as flexible as other figures because, again, it's a 10-year-old mold. So SpaceGodzilla's articulation is fine. You're just not going to be able to get him in as much poses as you probably would have wanted, so yeah. If you were hoping for some updated articulation, you're not going to get it here. His posability back then was fine, and his posability is fine here, but, for a 10-year-old mold getting released in this day and age, I expect it to be, at least a little bit updated. So it's kind of disappointing, some of the articulation, especially the tail right here. So yeah, that kind of sucks. SpaceGodzilla does have accessories. We have these two lightning effects. They look pretty nice. They're like this weird, translucent, glossy blue. And you know what? I dig it. I think it looks really nice. The glossy blue really works and really helps SpaceGodzilla pop when it's on the shoulder crystals. I like that. Both these lightning effects are unique designs. They are not reused. So, that's good. To use them is simple. And there you go. The SpaceGodzilla has lightning on his shoulder crystals, which I think that's supposed to be for his telekinesis powers, if I'm not mistaken. But again, I could very much be wrong on that, so don't quote me on that. But either way, it still looks pretty cool. And yes, the green versions from the special color SpaceGodzilla can be used for this one as well. And another accessory are these broken shoulder crystals. Getting a better look at the detail right here. It looks cool. It's more red, like the gradient it has from the base of the shoulder crystal to the actual crystal. It looks really nice. Like, I love the pinkish red it has. Really makes it look like it got damaged. And I do love the crackled design it has right here. That looks pretty neat. I like that. I like that a whole lot. I don't have any issues with it. I think it looks cool. I think it's pretty cool that we have these. To use them is simple. You pop off the shoulder crystals that he already has. They are molded unique. You just need to pay attention to which is left and right. You can see that there's an L right there, and that's for the left shoulder crystal. And same thing for the right shoulder crystal, his right. And there you go. Now he has battle damage shoulder crystals. Now you want to know what else he's missing? His beam. Where's his beam? With dorsal plates to look like this, you know, to charge it up and shoot it, you'd expect them to have his beam. He doesn't have his beam. Yeah, $160. Only has replaceable shoulder crystals and lightning effects, but doesn't have his beam. Even with dorsal plates to look like this, his beam should have been reissued. It should have been reissued for this. So that's really disappointing. He should have had his beam. But he doesn't. And he was expensive. $160 with no beam. Yeah, that's nice. Thanks, Bandai.
Here's a size comparison with other figures you may or may not own. SpaceGodzilla looks awesome next to other figures. He scales great with Godzilla, Little Godzilla, Mogira, and other monsters. So you should have no problem getting SpaceGodzilla into a display. So SpaceGodzilla turned out pretty good here. I fell in love with the look of this figure so quickly when I got it in hand. I honestly expected the figure to suck, but I'm glad I was wrong. But unfortunately, it falls flat in one big aspect. It's a decade-old figure made into the new modern day where MonsterArts has evolved past this old articulation engineering. This figure needed an update and it did not deliver. But at the same time, this still isn't a bad figure either. But for that price, no, absolutely not. Get this figure for a sale only. It's absolutely not worth $150. Wait for a sale, it ain't worth it at all. That's way too much for this figure. Sure, it looks great, and the accessories are great, and the articulation is decent, but it doesn't scream $150 at all. Not at all. It's a shame it wasn't cheaper because I would have easily recommended this figure 100%, but as it is, only diehard SpaceGodzilla and MonsterArts fans should get this figure, and even then, that price will end up biting you. It's a great piece, but again, not $150 great. I know I sound like a broken record with that, but it's true, that's an absolute ripoff. This figure gets a 7 out of 10. Good figure, but definitely could have been so much better in certain aspects.